Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl 7's rosters Necromantic. We're going through every roster available in Blood Bowl 2020 right now and putting together some of the most fun and or competitive rosters for Blood Bowl 7s. Now, we've done this series once before, but we're redoing it because the Blood Bowl 7's rules changed in Deathzone, and we haven't quite got round to it. But after playing Blood Bowl 20 for, 2 years now, and having played a ton of 7s games, we think we've got the inside track on the best and most fun 7s rosters out there, and Necromantic are definitely one of the best teams in Blood Bowl 7s. There's a werewolf, and a ghoul, and a white blitzer, and a strength 4 flesh golem, and zombies. What more could you want? Anyway, let's have a look at Necromantic in 7s. So yes, I do think that Necromantic are one of the better teams in 7s because they've got access to some players that really shine in this format. And quite frankly, let's face it, the werewolves are one of the best positionals in the game. Okay, movement 8, strength 3, and frenzy with agility and general access. It means that they are already stars, but they're one skill or two skills away from being genuine superstars. They're scoring threats and they are removal threats. They've got claws as well, which means actually, basically, no one is safe from the attack of a werewolf. And at movement 8, no defense is safe from the running touchdown of a werewolf. So actually those guys are just really great in any format of Blood Bowl. And in 7s, where you tend to get a little bit more open space, they genuinely really shine. If only there was a really powerful star wolf. Cheney. That's probably why Cheney's so good. Right, so the werewolves are fantastic, and the ghouls are also brilliant options. Movement 7, Edge 3+. Those are the two Edge 3+ pieces on this roster. And they've got dodge, right? The ghouls have dodge. So you've got a really great choice of fast scoring threats there. You've got movement 7, dodge with the ghouls, or you've got movement 8, frenzy with the werewolves. It gives you a brilliant choice of two players that any other roster would be really glad to be able to pick. But the cool thing about Necro is it also gives you decent combat choices too. The Wraiths are fantastic in 7s. Now, there is a bit of a stumbling block in the fact that they don't have hands because they have the no hand skills and because they're ghosts. So you are limiting your ability to score by having less players that have hands. But I think the Wraiths more than compensate with that, with the fact that they've got block and foul appearance and sidestep, and they just have a really cool ability to be able to get in the way and cause a nuisance of themselves. Block step is a superb combination, and in 7s it is one of the worst things imaginable. You don't really want to block this dude, and they've got block, so if you do block them, they're probably not going down, which means that sidestep's going to get them right in the way. And before all of that, you have to not fail a foul appearance. You go to blitz the Wraith and you blow it, that movement is cancelled. So the Wraiths are such a great deterrent, and I think that actually gets even more potent in 7s. They're a little bit underrated. There you go. Now, there are definitely some weaknesses in the Necro team. Limited Edge 3+ cannot be understated. Okay, you've got 4 positionals. Of those positionals, the werewolves are great. The ghouls are great. Okay, their scoring threats is brilliant. The Wraiths are great. They're combat pieces, but they don't have hands. So their agility, ignored. And the flesh golems are slow. They're heavy hitters, sure thing, but at poor edge. And then all the linemen are poor edge. So realistically, you're only going to have 2 to 4 players with Edge 3+. You've got no sure hands either, so when it comes to actually the whole ball element of this game, they do struggle a little bit. When it comes to the punch and being punched, they do brilliantly at it, and they are expensive. Werewolves, I think, are the most expensive positional in the game that isn't a big guy, 125k. The flesh golems are 100 and something. Everyone's quite expensive, but it is counterbalanced by the fact that your linemen are cheap as chips, maybe even cheaper. I would pay more for chips than I would pay for a zombie. Yes, that is, yes, entirely accurate. And the rerolls are pricey too, 140k in 7s. So it is an interesting roster. You've got some of the most potent players imaginable. You've got some of the best value linemen available, right? A zombie is a great place. It is slower than a skeleton, so they lose a point there. You've got great players. it's just you're kind of taxed a bit on the reroll front. Okay, let's have a look at some rosters then. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the max agility build. This is 2 werewolves, 2 ghoul runners, and 3 zombies, so 7 players. Now, we've already talked about why these players are great. Werewolves are movement 8, frenzy, and claws. The ghoul runners are movement 7, dodge, and both of them are edge 3+, which means they're just fine for picking up the ball. Now, you can add a few skills. When it comes to sevens, if you're playing League from the Deathzone rules, your players are going to get random skills. So it doesn't matter what you want, what you get is what you get. And actually, some of that can be a really great learning experience. Some of it can be shadowing on a zombie. That's not fun. So if you're playing in an advanced system like 7 Super Series, where you're kind of expanding every game, or a tournament format like South Coast or something, constructed Blood Bowl, you can pick a few skills and put it on some of your players. Then when it comes to the werewolves, you really can't go wrong. Okay, block is an excellent skill. Block is probably the best skill in sevens. Block, dodge, sure hands, right? The top 3 for sevens. So giving a werewolf block is going to protect him as a carrier and support him being a blitzer. So block is the correct choice, I think, for at least one werewolf if you can take it. Now, they also have access to dodge. So the werewolves get access to block and dodge. So they get access straight away to the 2 best skills in sevens. Now, the dodge is going to give you that integral reroll, but in this roster, you've got 2 dodge players on the ghouls. So it's not entirely necessary. If you can stack skills, if your players develop, then actually a blodge werewolf in sevens is going to be a superstar that's going to cause friction within your player base, and he's going to get fouled. So block is great, dodge is great, tackle makes him an insanely good backfield defender. I love tackle in sevens because every sevens roster is going to try to get at least one dodge piece to help with that maneuverability. That integral reroll is super useful, so having one tackle piece is going to give you a really great chance to take out that piece. Plus, a werewolf is just a gutter runner hunter, a skink hunter, a goblin hunter. Werewolves against any of those players are just game over if you've got tackle. So it's a really interesting one. Block is the correct skill, but that is a definite other option. A mighty blow can be quite fun too. It doesn't stack the way it does with claws like it used to basically, but actually you just roll an 8+ and then you just add 1 to the injury roll, and it can be a terrifying combination. But when it comes to the werewolf, block or dodge is definitely the right thing to do. If you don't have ghouls or you don't have any other option, you can make them into a ball carrier and give them sure hands. I think you're missing a bit of a trick when it comes to these guys. With block, they become just one of the best blitzers in the game, and that's not hyperbole, that's just fact. So, ghoul runners, block, wrestle, sure hands, and leader. If you can get access to a secondary, then actually putting leader on your ghoul gives your team a reroll, which is even better than putting block on a dude, because it's going to save you. And in sevens, a turnover saved is a turn gained, basically. You only get 6 turns in this game, and if you can run a couple of rerolls somehow, or just save those failed dice rolls, it's going to give you that extra amount of activations that's going to be the difference between winning and losing a game. A block ghoul is a wonderful thing. Blodge is great. Wrestle is really good because actually they've got dodge, so you are going to be able to get them into a reasonable position to make a sack attempt on a ball carrier. So having that wrestle ability is going to be really useful to drag somebody down. It depends. If you're going to be using your ghouls to be ball carriers, then you want block to keep them standing. If you're going to use them as a safety, then wrestle to pull your opponent down. Same is kind of true of the werewolf, but a block werewolf is just far too useful. Now, if you are looking to make a ball carrier out of one of these players, whether it's a werewolf or a ghoul, then sure hands is going to be brilliant. Leader is great. It's going to give you 1 reroll per half. Sure hands is going to come into handy several times per half. I think you've got that opportunity of 1, failing the pickup roll, and then 2, if the ball is in a tackle zone, it gives you that 75% chance to swoop in and steal the ball. Now, if you can do that, again, going to be another point in your column towards winning the game. Then you've got the zombies. You can, when it comes to randoms, anything's great, right? Block is obviously what you want, but if you get a choice to put a skill on a zombie and you can't move it to a werewolf or a ghoul, kick. Kick is just a brilliant skill in sevens. It can pin your opponent back. It can also drop the ball real close for an onside kick, and that again is one of the most exciting things in sevens. So that's the core of this roster. That's the werewolves, the ghouls, and the zombies. Now, this roster actually only comes in at 520, so it gives you a few more options with what to take. You can chuck in 2 more zombies and take 9 players. The werewolves are reasonably resilient. The ghouls have got dodge, but they are a little bit light on armor. And the zombies are brilliant. They've got armor 8+ and regenerate. They're not really going anywhere. So you don't need a bench. Having 1 spare player in a roster like this is a reasonable thing to do. It allows you to foul and not worry too much if one guy gets sent off, and it makes sure that you've got 7 players there for the second half. Your werewolves and ghouls are fantastic. Your zombies are very slow, so making sure that you have those numbers is going to help when it comes to defending. Or you can take a whole bunch of coaches. Now, in this roster, we don't have enough cash to just straight up buy a reroll. Assistant coaches are going to give you +1 to brilliant coaching when it's rolled on the kickoff table. And that roll is a 7 and is going to come up 1 in 6 kickoffs. So if you spend some money on assistant coach, it is going to help you swing an extra reroll every now and again. It's definitely not certain and it's definitely not science, but it is maths. So there's a thing there. Or, now this is something that we've been really enjoying while going through the 7 Super Series, which only a few more weeks before it starts coming out, a Desperate Measure. Desperate Measures were introduced in Deathzone, and they are so much fun. There's even a wizard. Basically, 50k, you roll a d8 on this chart. There's some really great skills there. They're fun, they're narrative, they are swingy. Some are really useful, some are overpowered, some are just fireballs. So the Desperate Measure, okay, if you want to be consistent, put everything in front of you, be controlled, and play good Blood Bowl, then the right thing to do is take the 8th zombie and spend the rest of the money on 2 coaches. Okay, that's the correct thing to do. If you want to have some fun, take the Desperate Measure, take a coach, and hope you roll well. Now, building from that roster, we've got the max combat variant. So you keep the werewolves, they're so much fun, they're so good in 7s, and we're keeping them. What we are going to do, though, is make this roster more focused on combat and less agile and less able to pick up the ball. So we've swapped both those ghouls out for Wraith Blitzers. So your werewolves here are going to be your primary runners, and now your blitzers are going to be your primary combat pieces. They're backed up by zombies. Now this roster comes in at 560, so you can afford an 8th zombie and you can afford those 2 coaches. It's up to you which one you take. You can't take a Desperate Measure, so all the fun's out the window. But when it comes to this roster, you've got those Wraiths. So you've already got 2 reasonably fast blockers. You've got block, you've got sidestep, you've got that bit of foul appearance, and they become really, really potent on the pitch. And this roster is gonna be up in your face, and it is gonna be really offensive. Those Wraith Blitzers with sidestep are gonna be able to just harangue the ball carrier and give you an assist for the werewolves. You've got 2 werewolves. If you can base 1 or 2 players with a werewolf each turn, your Wraith Blitzers are probably going to be able to end up in a place to give that werewolf a 4-die block. 2-die block frenzy into 2-die block frenzy is 4-die block, and that's going to be great whether the werewolves got block or not. Now the Wraith Blitzers, they shine with a little bit of a skill, okay? They are brilliant with tackle. Because they've got sidestep, they're going to be able to rotate and stay on target, which is going to absolutely destroy your opponent if their dodger is in base contact with your block tackle piece at the beginning of your turn, or if they try and dodge away, that integral reroll is gone and they're going to have to be relying on just straight up dice, or maybe they've got a team reroll. So having that tackle piece makes the Wraith Blitzer sticky as a defender. Really, really, really useful. The other thing you can do is chuck guard on them and then use them to support those werewolves. Again, block is going to keep them standing, sidestep is going to keep them standing where you want them to be, and that just gears up your wolves to take 4-die blocks with claws. It is just horrible. If you can hunt in 2 packs, Wraith, Werewolf, 4 dice, follow up maybe with another 2-die block with that's 6 dice on each target. You're gonna start proning, stunning, and hopefully removing your opponent's players. The downside of this roster is your lack of agility 3+. You've got both the werewolves, they're going to be your scoring threats. Your zombies are ag 4+, but you've got no reroll. So it is going to be a little bit slow and a little bit lucky, but actually you're not playing this to score a ton of touchdowns. You're playing this to get the blitzer and the werewolf just hunting in packs, which is thematic and effective. Or you can go max strength. Now this one comes in bang on 600, so no choices for you. 2 werewolves, and then we've got 2 flesh golems instead of the other piece. So we just talked about a combat heavy roster where there's less agility. Technically, this has got more agility but less speed, but more strength, but less block. So the flesh golems here fill that role of a nice juicy blocker. Now they're movement 4, so you're going to have to basically field them behind your zombies and use them as defenders. But actually they can be the anvil to your werewolf's hammer. Now they're not going to be able to sidestep around, they're not going to be as consistent when it comes to blocking, but actually the fact they're strength 4 means they're going to be able to trundle along and get a pretty reasonable 2-die block. Now if you can take a couple of skills on some players, then a flesh golem with block is not a bad thing. Now in this roster the werewolves are better, okay? A block werewolf is better than a flesh golem, where a block flesh golem in 7s. The flesh golem's movement being half that of a werewolf really limits its play. But the flesh golem is going to be there. Thick skull, armor 99, stand firm, 2 dice blocking most of the time. The flesh golem is there to, yeah, you know what, actually, the anvil to the werewolf's hammer. This is a slow and plodding roster. You've got movement 4, movement 4, movement 4, movement 4, movement 4, and then basically the 2 werewolves are as fast as the rest of the team combined. So this is all about having star werewolves. But actually what you can do is just zombie horde advance. You've got those flesh golems, you can make some good blocks with zombies by teaming up, and then the werewolves can just loiter in the shadows waiting for great 2 to 4 die block opportunities. This is a slow control roster for 7s. If you are not careful, you are going to get left behind, your team's going to get split, your werewolf's going to get outnumbered, and the boot is going to go in. So be very careful of that. But it can be really fun to just watch your opponent go, werewolf that side, werewolf that side. If I go up the middle, then I've got 2 flesh golems. It is stressful and it is quite fun. Okay, now we've looked at the werewolf heavy rosters. What can you do if you change the werewolf for a different positional? So we've got the first roster here, which was 2 werewolves, 2 ghouls. We've replaced both the werewolves with those wraith blitzers, and what that's allowed us to do is actually afford a team reroll. So as great as the werewolves are, they are so expensive that you've basically got no chance of building a roster with other positionals and a reroll. Now this one here is kind of a middle ground one. You've got those 2 block blitzers. Now the wraiths are great, we've talked about them, they are quite effective at getting in the way and just being consistent. And the ghouls here with movement 7, strength 3 and dodge are still really good scoring threats. They're not werewolves, but they are like 2/3 of the price. So you kind of get a choice here. Do I want 2 wraith blitzers and a reroll, or do I want 2 werewolves? And that is going to be down to you. If you can swing a leader reroll, then it kind of flexes things up and you can take those wolves instead. But this roster here is going to give you 2 solid combat pieces, 2 fast dodgy pieces, and some zombies in the backup with that 1 reroll to save you when something goes wrong. You're going to lack a bit of the frenzy combat power, but actually it's going to be fine. You could even put frenzy on a wraith if you want to make yourself feel better. This is a really solid roster. You've got maybe a bit of tackle on the wraith blitzers. You've got block or maybe sure hands on a ghoul runner. You are limited when it comes to 3+ pieces. Okay, add 3+ pieces. But what you kind of get, again, this is the mid-range roster, okay? You've got those ghouls, they've got dodge, they've got scoring ability. Your ghouls go down, you're going to be relying on your zombies to do everything, and that's kind of where this reroll needs to be there for. So an interesting roster. If you want to play with that safety net of having a reroll, then you can do it with this one. It's not as versatile, I think, as the other ones involving werewolves, but the reroll, it can be done. And we promised competitive and /fun rosters, so we've got the Zombie Nation roster. If the thought of moving faster than movement 4 upsets you, and you're not playing dwarves, then this might be the one for you. Okay, so 7 zombies, 2 rerolls, comes in at 560. So you can take 2 coaches and swing that reroll. You can take your 8th zombie, or you can use that spare cash to turn one of your zombies into a ghoul and just kind of pretend he's a necromancer leading your little zombie army. Now you are going to be relying on those 2 rerolls to do everything, because at Ag 4+, strength 3, no skills, and movement 4, you're going to need to roll dice to even breathe, okay? Although as a zombie you don't need to breathe, so that's an interesting counterplay. This roster is bad, but there are going to be some of you that take it and do brilliantly, because zombies are underrated linemen, and actually if you've got a little bit of cash there, you can take a ghoul and just add a little bit of spice to it. In fact, a ghoul with leader would give you 3 rerolls, and that would be quite entertaining in 7s. Now, I like to finish these videos by referring to my best pick, my best roster. Necro are really versatile. What you want will change based on what your meta is and what kind of player you are. But when it comes to 7s, and what you need in 7s really is resilience and speed and flexibility, this roster here is better for that. You've got 4 players with Edge 3+ and great movement. You've got 2 decent combat pieces, and it gives you the flexibility here to take the desperate measures, or to take an 8th person and some coaches to kind of win that extra. I would go with this one. It will be the most fun. There will definitely be those games where your ghoul goes down, your werewolf gets isolated, and the kind of rest of the game falls apart. But that's 7s. In 45 minutes it'll be over and you're on to your next game. And in that game, maybe your werewolves just wreck your opponent's line, and then they cannot stop all 4 of your scoring threats with an undead team. And that's just magic. Anyway, let me know what you think your favourite roster is in 7s, and I'm going to wrap up and we'll be back again soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content, we get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.